The world of boxing had seen its share of legends, but nothing like this. Nothing even close. The moment whispers of the matchup hit the airwaves, the fight world stood still. Mike Tyson, once the most feared man on the planet, the embodiment of raw power, speed, and aggression against Oleksandr Usyk, a technical maestro, a man who turned movement into an art form, a champion who carved through heavyweight giants with surgical precision. It was a clash that defied time, an encounter that shouldn't have been possible. Yet here it was, unfolding before the eyes of a stunned and electrified world. Some called it a spectacle, others a dream fight plucked from the fantasies of boxing historians. But to those who truly understood the sport, this was something far more profound. It was a question, a challenge whispered through the ages. Could Tyson's relentless destruction overpower Usyk's tactical genius? Would raw aggression overwhelm masterful control? Could the iron fists of the past crack the unbreakable puzzle of the present? The announcement alone had sent shockwaves through the fight community. Analysts debated, fans took sides, and the internet exploded with theories, training breakdowns, and comparisons between two fighters separated by decades yet bound by greatness. Some doubted Tyson could return at such a level. Others insisted his power had never faded, that a fighter like him was dangerous, no matter the year, no matter the opponent. And then there were those who saw Usyk as untouchable, his movement too smooth, his adaptability too sharp for even the most ferocious of punchers to break through. Tyson had never been one for long speeches. He didn't need to be. A single sentence from him carried more weight than 1,000 words from anyone else. When asked about the fight, his response had been simple: "I was born for this." Usyk, ever the technician, had smiled and responded in kind: "Let's dance." Fight camps were set, training footage flooded social media, and speculation reached a fever pitch. Every second of Tyson's workouts was scrutinized: his speed, his timing, his power. The old ferocity, the head movement, the crushing blows. People saw glimpses of the past and wondered if he could summon the full force of his former self. Usyk, on the other hand, trained like a man sculpting perfection. Precision, angles, footwork. It was all a symphony of motion, each movement calculated to neutralize the storm that was Tyson. Then came the face-off. Under the bright lights, with cameras capturing every twitch of their expressions, they met in the center. Tyson, shorter but broader, his eyes burning with the same intensity that once sent entire divisions into hiding. Usyk, calm, unreadable, like a grandmaster studying the board before making his move. Neither flinched. Neither blinked. And then Tyson smirked. Just a little. A knowing, almost amused expression, as if he recognized something in Usyk's eyes that the world hadn't caught yet. It was a moment lost in the noise of the crowd, the flashing cameras, the booming voices of promoters hyping up the fight. But for those who saw it, for those who truly understood the warrior's mind, it was a warning. A storm was coming. As the fight approached, the stakes became clearer. This wasn't just about legacy. It wasn't about money. This was about proving something. For Tyson, it was a chance to defy time itself, to show that the monster of old had never really left. For Usyk, it was about solidifying his place, proving that his skill, his movement, his intelligence could stand against even the most primal force the sport had ever seen. The world held its breath. Tickets vanished in minutes. Celebrities, fighters, and legends of the sport made their way to the arena, knowing they were about to witness something historic. And as the fighters made their final preparations, walking toward a moment that would be spoken about for generations, the question lingered in the air: who would break first? The arena was alive, a pulsing, roaring beast of anticipation. Fans pressed forward in their seats, cameras flashed like lightning, and the energy in the air was almost unbearable. Every boxing great in attendance, every analyst dissecting the matchup on air, every fan watching from their screen, they all knew this was history. But what no one knew, what no one could have predicted, was that this fight was about to take a turn that would leave even the most seasoned fight experts speechless. The fighters stood in their corners, seconds away from the opening bell. Tyson's chest rose and fell with slow, controlled breaths, his gloves twitching slightly, as if he could barely wait for the first punch. Across the ring, Usyk rolled his shoulders, bouncing on his feet, eyes locked onto his opponent with an unreadable focus. The ref stepped between them, raising a hand. The crowd hushed, and then the bell rang. Tyson exploded forward. No hesitation, no feeling out process. He moved like a predator uncaged, slipping low, feinting, head weaving side to side with terrifying speed. Usyk reacted instantly, circling out, keeping distance, his footwork flawless. The game had begun. The first punches were a blur. Tyson lunged in with a hook to the body. Usyk countered with a sharp jab, pivoting away. Another Tyson rush, another slick evasion. For a moment, it looked like the fight would unfold exactly as many had expected, Usyk using his superior movement to keep the raging storm at bay. But then, in the blink of an eye, something changed. Tyson feinted a right hand, a subtle flick of the shoulder, and Usyk reacted just as he should have. But instead of following up with the expected left hook, Tyson did something no one saw coming. He stepped back, just half a step, just enough to make Usyk believe he had space to counter. And then, boom. A short, crushing uppercut detonated into Usyk's ribs. It wasn't wild. It wasn't reckless. It was precise, calculated, and it hurt. The crowd gasped as Usyk's feet briefly faltered. It was the first time in years that he had been caught clean with a shot he hadn't anticipated. The rhythm had been broken. Tyson wasn't just throwing bombs, he was thinking. Usyk reset instantly, flashing a smile. But there was something different now. A new tension. The Ukrainian champion wasn't just fighting a relentless force of nature. He was fighting a man who had spent decades inside the fire, who had learned to adapt, who was reading him in real time. The rounds pushed forward, each one more intense than the last. Tyson pressed. Usyk countered. The ring became their battlefield, neither man willing to give an inch. The younger, fresher Usyk started finding his groove, sniping with sharp counters, making Tyson miss just enough to frustrate him. But every time the Ukrainian seemed to take control, Tyson would remind the world why he was feared, digging into the body, cutting off the ring, forcing a fight in the trenches where he thrived. Then, as the fourth round approached, something truly unexpected happened. Tyson, known for his aggression, suddenly slowed. Just for a moment. His movements became less explosive, his footwork less urgent. Usyk, sensing an opportunity, pressed forward for the first time all night. And then just as he did, Tyson smirked. It was a trap. A beautifully disguised, perfectly set trap. Tyson wasn't slowing down. He was waiting. Usyk threw a jab, a right hand, stepping into range, and Tyson exploded a left hook from the depths of the past, a shot that carried the echoes of the fighter he once was. The impact was thunderous. Usyk's head snapped sideways, his body instinctively rolling with the punch to absorb the worst of it, but the damage was done. The crowd erupted. The commentators lost their minds. For the first time in the fight, Usyk was in trouble. But just when it seemed like Tyson had finally cracked the puzzle, just when the momentum was shifting in his favor, Usyk did something no one expected. He smiled. A real smile. A grin of understanding, of acceptance. And then, wiping the corner of his mouth, he took a deep breath, and for the first time all night he stepped into the fire willingly. The war had only just begun. The crowd barely had time to process what they had just witnessed. Usyk, after absorbing one of Tyson's most devastating hooks, wasn't backing down. He was stepping into the danger, daring the legend to throw again. The shift was immediate. The air inside the arena thickened with an unspoken understanding. This was no longer just a fight. It was something more. A clash of eras, of philosophies, of men who refused to break. Tyson, undeterred, pressed forward, launching another hook, but Usyk was already in motion. He slipped just outside the arc of the punch, pivoted, and fired a crisp counter straight down the middle. The shot landed clean, snapping Tyson's head back slightly, but it wasn't enough to stop him. The former undisputed champion roared forward again, throwing with bad intentions, but for every punch that found its mark, Usyk answered with precision. The ring became their proving ground, a brutal exchange of skill and will. Then, in the 7th round, everything reached its breaking point. Tyson came in low, weaving past a jab and dug a monstrous right hand to Usyk's ribs. The sound of the shot was sickening, and for the first time in his career, Usyk froze. His body betrayed him for just a second, his legs stiffening, his breath hitching. The audience collectively held their breath. Was this it? Had Tyson finally done what so many believed impossible? But champions, true champions, find a way to push past the breaking point. Usyk didn't step back. He didn't clinch. Instead, he did something no one expected. With his body still reeling from the impact, he unleashed a perfectly placed uppercut, one so fast and precise that Tyson never saw it coming. The punch caught him under the chin, sending a shockwave through his entire frame. Tyson stumbled. It wasn't a knockdown, but it was close. For the first time in the fight, his legs wobbled just slightly, just enough for the referee to step in and watch closely. The crowd erupted in disbelief. Tyson shook his head, trying to clear the haze, but Usyk was already moving. The Ukrainian poured on the pressure, throwing in combinations, targeting angles that forced Tyson to defend, to react, to retreat for the first time all night. The next few minutes were chaos. Tyson, fighting through the fatigue, still had his power, still had his instinct, but Usyk was relentless. The body shots had slowed him down just enough, the war of attrition taking its toll. Usyk's footwork, once a tool of evasion, had now become a weapon of attack. He weaved around Tyson's defenses, landing sharp counters, exploiting every tiny opening. Then, deep into the 10th round, the final moment arrived. Tyson stepped forward, swinging a right hand with everything he had left. Usyk dipped low, rolled under it, and before Tyson could reset, the punch landed. A short, surgical left straight to the chin. The kind of punch that doesn't look devastating until you see the effect. Tyson's body betrayed him. His legs locked, his balance evaporated, and for the first time in the fight, he fell. The referee rushed in as the crowd lost its mind. The count began, each number ringing through the arena like a hammer against steel. Tyson, breathing heavy, stared at the canvas for a brief second before pushing himself up, shaking his head, trying to convince his body to obey him one last time. The count reached 8. Tyson was on his feet, hands raised, but the referee studied him carefully. The legend swayed just slightly, just enough. And then it was over. The referee waved his hands. The fight was called. The war had ended. Usyk raised his gloves in victory, but there was no celebration, no wild outburst of joy. Instead, he turned to Tyson, walking toward him, and what happened next was the moment that truly defined the night. Usyk, battered and exhausted, embraced Tyson, whispering something only they could hear. Tyson, his face still carrying the weight of battle, nodded, then raised Usyk's hand himself. A gesture of respect. A passing of the torch, not in words, but in something greater. The debate over who was the greatest would never end. The arguments, the theories, the comparisons, they would rage on for years. But in that moment, under the blinding lights, surrounded by the deafening roar of the crowd, only one thing mattered. Two warriors had given everything. And no matter who had won, neither had truly lost. As the camera zoomed in on Tyson's face, he let out a small, knowing smile. Not of regret, not of disappointment, but of understanding. Because legends aren't defined by records or belts. They're defined by the battles they fight. And this was a battle worthy of the ages.